Shelly and her husband were a regular couple leading a normal life until Shelly unexpectedly got pregnant. Although it was life-changing, they looked forward to meeting their baby together. Sadly, on the delivery day, Shelly developed some complications, and she was soon on the brink of death. It was then that a nurse suggested putting the baby on her chest, but what happened is nothing short of a true miracle. Shelly and Jeremy were a happy couple. Shelly, a 23-year-old nursing student, and Jeremy, a 35-year-old IMCA director, shared a loving relationship despite their age gap. Their life seemed to be on the right track, but everything took an unexpected turn one morning, turning their journey into a roller coaster of highs and lows. That morning, Shelly woke up feeling unwell. Her stomach churned, sending her rushing to the bathroom, where she threw up everything from the night before. The queasy feeling lingered, and she couldn't shake the constant urge to pee. On top of that, everything around her suddenly felt unbearably irritating. She couldn't help but wonder what was going on. This went on for a few days, and Shelly began to worry, though Jeremy reassured her it was probably just the flu. By the fourth day, when her symptoms persisted, Jeremy urged her to visit the hospital after her classes. During her classes, Shelly struggled with dizziness and an overwhelming sense of fatigue, barely staying awake. She didn't hesitate to go to the hospital afterward to get checked. Little did she know, she was about to get the biggest surprise of her life. When Shelly got to the hospital, the tests carried out showed that she was pregnant. What? Pregnant? Shelly froze. She had been on the pills, so it came as a big shock. Calling her husband on the phone, Shelly broke the news to him. Like her, he was also surprised. Shelly froze. A few hours later, the shock wore off, and they were more than happy to be expecting parents. The couple went all in with the preparations to welcome their child. Shelly started the prenatal at the appropriate time. Shelly immersed herself in preparing for motherhood, buying maternity books and baby items, and spending hours daydreaming about her child, what they might look like, the bond they'd share, and how she and Jeremy would navigate the challenges of parenting. She was so excited for this new chapter, unaware of the tragedy looming ahead. A month before her due date, doctors discovered a blood clot in her leg and prescribed blood thinners, which Shelly took diligently to protect her baby. She did everything to ensure her child's health, not realizing her own life would soon be at risk. Throughout it all, Jeremy was a constant source of love and support, especially during the final month of her pregnancy. He came home early whenever possible and even took days off to care for Shelly and their unborn baby. On the 5th of September, Jeremy served Shelly her favorite breakfast in the kitchen. Her belly was already so big by this time, and they were expecting the baby to come at any moment. Shelly's eating habits during her pregnancy. It was so hilarious that she couldn't stop laughing. However, the next moment, she gasped. She looked at her husband and screamed that her water had just broken. For a few minutes, the couple panicked. But they had already practiced the scene so many times, so they just needed to follow through with their plan. Breathing heavily, Jeremy gathered the bags and put them in the car. He gently guided Shelly into the passenger seat and lowered the chair so she could be comfortable. Then he drove to the hospital as fast as he could. The contractions were coming again and again, and Jeremy couldn't bear seeing his beloved wife in pain. Once she was in the hands of the doctors, Jeremy calmed down because he thought his wife was now safe. Sadly, he was wrong. About 40 minutes later, the doctors came out to tell Jeremy that Shelly's labor wasn't progressing. Shelly was diagnosed with preeclampsia, a life-threatening condition, along with abnormal fluctuations in her blood pressure and heartbeat. This meant she needed an emergency C-section. Shortly after, Shelly was wheeled into the operating room, and at 11:44 p.m. on September 5th, Rylan Grace Cawley entered the world with a piercing cry that filled the room with joy. The nurses cleaned and wrapped her in a blanket before placing her in Jeremy's arms. Tears streamed down his face as he held his 7-pound, 11-ounce daughter. She was so beautiful, and Jeremy felt like the luckiest father in the world. Now all he wanted was for Shelly to meet their baby. Jeremy was told Shelly was in recovery and that he could see her soon. Holding Rylan, he was overwhelmed with pride for their perfect little creation, but just minutes later, another piece of bad news arrived. Shelly's health had just suddenly taken a drastic turn, and she had fallen into a near-fatal coma. The doctors found out that Rylan's weight had held the clot in Shelly's leg in place. But as soon as the baby was delivered, the clot traveled from Shelly's legs to her lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism. Hearing the devastating news, Jeremy fell to his knees, crying and praying. How could his wife die when they had their whole lives ahead of them? And what about Rylan? How would she grow up without a mother? One of the nurses, Ashley Manis, watched with compassion and approached Jeremy with an unusual suggestion. She explained, "Strip the baby down and place her skin to skin with Shelly. Maybe the smell, touch, or sound of the baby will give her a reason to fight, even in a coma." With no other options, Jeremy agreed. Baby Rylan was gently undressed and placed on Shelly's bare chest. The room fell silent as everyone, doctors, nurses, and Jeremy, waited in hope. Not long after, they noticed Rylan had drifted off to sleep, but the question lingered, would Shelly respond? It would have been cute if the timing wasn't so dire. Nearly 10 minutes were spent trying to get Rylan to wake up. Come on, Rylan, please cry, make a sound." Ashley pleaded as she gently tapped and tickled her, but Rylan didn't budge. And then, out of the blue, she let out a dull cry, and she just kept crying for about 3 minutes until she fell silent. Regardless of Rylan's cries, there was still no improvement in Shelly's vital signs, so the nurses lifted Rylan from her mother's chest and dressed her up. The doctors shook their heads sadly, and Ashley went to Jeremy, looking dejected. "I'm sorry. I really had a strong feeling that this would work," she said. A tear rolled down Jeremy's cheek. "No, this can't be happening. Shelly, you're strong. You can do this. Our baby needs you. I need you," he said, grasping Shelly's hand and placing kisses on her hand, yet nothing happened. Jeremy shut his eyes in defeat and struggled to come to terms with his loss. How would he raise Rylan alone? What about all their plans together? She hadn't even met their daughter. As Jeremy sat lost in thought, something miraculous happened. "Sir, I'm sorry, sir. Look." Ashley shook Jeremy, snapping him out of his daze. She pointed at the monitors, where Shelly's vital signs were rapidly improving at an astonishing rate. Jeremy rushed to Shelly's side, relieved to see her breathing steadily. Her pale skin had regained its color, and she looked as though she was in a deep, restorative sleep. When the doctors returned, they confirmed that she was out of danger and simply resting. Tears of joy streamed down Jeremy's face. It was truly a miracle. A week later, Shelly fully recovered after spending days in intensive care and was discharged just 2 days before Rylan turned 1 month old. As she looked at her little girl, Shelly felt certain they would share a special bond. One day, when Rylan is old enough, Shelly plans to tell her the story of how she saved her mother's life. I'm really keen to know your thoughts on this story, so please don't hesitate to share your insights in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it engaging, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more similar content. Feel free to share this video. Take good care of yourselves, and I'm excited to connect with you in our future videos.